a year since an earthquake and subsequent tsunami devastated northern Japan, killing thousands of people and severely damaging the Fukushima nuclear plant. U.S. Senator Ron Wyden is the first senator to get a look inside of Fukushima's cleanup efforts. He visited the plant a little over a week ago and joins me now. Senator Wyden, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thanks for having me back.
So tell us, what did you see on the ground there at Fukushima? How far along are they in the cleanup efforts, and what concerns you the most?
They obviously have a long way to go. When you go in there, you see hundreds of tons of debris. You have huge trucks, storage tankers thrown about like they were my twins, my 4-year-old twins' toys. And it's very clear that there are substantial health questions that have to be addressed now. I'm particularly concerned about Unit 4. There are these 6 reactors. If, for example, you had an earthquake or a tsunami hit those particular pools, those pools could rupture. That could mean that the fuel rods could catch fire, melt down, and you'd have radiation in the air that would be a huge challenge to control.
And Senator, the Japanese are a very proud people. They've often been reluctant to accept outside help in the past. Are they willing to accept international help in storing these dangerous fuel rods, or have they been keeping it amongst themselves?
Well, I want to commend them, first of all, for allowing me to make the trip. I sit on the Senate Energy Committee. I've made it clear I didn't think there was enough information getting out about the cleanup. This has huge implications for nuclear power both there and around the world. I do think that their regulators, and frankly, their regulators, to their credit, will tell you that they are not as strong as our regulators here, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I do think that this is something that has to be addressed quickly. The utility company, what's called TEPCO, has a 10-year plan for essentially moving the spent fuel rods to dry cast, to dry storage. That, in my view, must be sped up, because if another earthquake or a tsunami hits, it could be very damaging, possibly more radiation than earlier.
What effect does this have in the United States? Could any of the radiation from there get in the water, possibly in fish or something, that would go over to California in those waters?
I'm not going to speculate about that. Certainly, these reactors are very close to the ocean. In my home state, we've long been concerned about tsunamis and earthquakes. I think it's time to get this right. We need to focus on what kind of design there ought to be for nuclear plants, where they ought to be located. Certainly, the question of putting them right next to oceans ought to be problematic to anyone. And those are the kinds of issues that can't be ducked any longer.
But Japanese exports, you feel, are safe? For example, if you're a green tea drinker like I am and you get green tea from Japan, I shouldn't worry about that?
I'm not going to make scientific judgments. I think they've made it clear that they have been able to handle much of the radiation because it stayed within the vessels. That's one of the reasons I'm so concerned about Unit 4. That is essentially outside the containment kind of process, and that's why an earthquake or tsunami could be so serious. I will tell you, Luke, that when I was visiting and we were getting on the bus to go to the airport, people said, "Oh, pretty amazing, Ron, that you didn't have a tremor or an earthquake while you're there." I mean, this is not an abstract question. This happens very frequently there.
Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon, just back from Japan and Fukushima. Thanks so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.